42 men. 42 men embark on a mission so audacious, so seemingly impossible, that it defies all conventional military wisdom. Their target? The most powerful battleship in Europe, hidden deep within an impenetrable Norwegian fjord. This is not a conventional naval engagement. This is a desperate gamble, a calculated act of near-suicidal courage designed to cripple a colossal threat with a handful of tiny, experimental craft. Can such a minuscule force truly bring down a titan, or are these men merely sailing into an icy, watery grave? In the unforgiving waters of the European theater, the year is 1943. The German battleship Tirpitz, a leviathan of steel and weaponry, casts a long, menacing shadow across the Allied war effort. Known as the Lonely Queen of the North, this formidable vessel, sister ship to the infamous Bismarck, displaces over 42,900 tons standard and extends 251 meters in length. She boasts 8 powerful 15-inch main guns and carries a crew of more than 2,600 sailors. Her mere presence in the Norwegian fjords ties up significant Royal Navy resources, diverting capital ships that are desperately needed elsewhere to protect vital Arctic convoys supplying the Soviet Union. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill himself declared that no other target was comparable to the Tirpitz, her destruction being the greatest single act to restore the balance of naval power. Deep within this strategic struggle, a remarkable figure emerges: Lieutenant Basil Charles Godfrey Place. Born on July 19, 1921, in Little Malvern, Worcestershire, England, Place is a career Royal Navy officer, joining as a cadet in Dartmouth in 1934. Before the war, he served as a midshipman in the cruiser HMS Newcastle. In 1941, he volunteered for the submarine service, gaining experience in the Mediterranean with the 10th Flotilla, serving in HMS Urge and HMS Una, and as a liaison officer in the Polish submarine Sokol, for which he received the Polish Military Cross in 1942. His distinguished service continued as First Lieutenant of HMS Unbeaten, earning him the Distinguished Service Cross in 1942 after the sinking of the Italian U-boat Guglielmotti off Sicily. What sets Lieutenant Basil Place apart is not just his experience, but his pioneering spirit. He is the only regular Royal Navy officer among the early volunteers for the experimental X-Craft program, having previously commanded the 2nd Experimental Midget Submarine, X-4. His deep understanding of submarine warfare, combined with a quiet determination and an almost self-effacing modesty, makes him an unusual yet ideal candidate for the perilous mission that lies ahead. He now commands HMS X-7, one of a tiny, revolutionary class of midget submarines, each a mere 51 feet long and displacing 27 tons surfaced. These minuscule vessels are designed for one purpose: to penetrate the most heavily defended enemy anchorages and deliver a devastating blow where no conventional warship could hope to succeed. The task facing Lieutenant Basil Place and his fellow X-Craft crews is monumental, bordering on the suicidal. The Tirpitz lies nestled within Kafjord, a southern extension of Altafjord in northern Norway, shielded by an array of natural and man-made defenses that render it, in German eyes, virtually impregnable. The fjord itself is a natural fortress, with towering mountains providing cover and the narrow inlet making passage difficult for enemy vessels. German ingenuity has further bolstered these natural barriers. The battleship is surrounded by multiple layers of heavy anti-torpedo nets, some expected to reach 60 feet deep, but in reality, some extend all the way to the seabed, leaving no gap underneath. Beyond these immediate defenses, the entrance to Kafjord is guarded by extensive minefields, vigilant patrols, and sophisticated listening posts. Shore-based artillery batteries and anti-aircraft guns are strategically positioned in the surrounding mountains, ready to unleash a torrent of fire on any approaching threat. German command confidently believes the Lonely Queen of the North is untouchable within this ice-clad fortress. The X-Craft themselves present a formidable challenge. These midget submarines are a radical departure from traditional naval design. Each vessel is 51 feet long with a maximum diameter of 5.5 feet, displacing 27 tons surfaced and 30 tons submerged. Propulsion comes from a diesel engine for surface speeds of 6.5 knots and an electric motor for submerged speeds of 5.5 knots. Their range is limited, approximately 500 miles surfaced and 80 miles submerged. They carry a crew of 4 operational men, living in cramped, squalid conditions for extended periods. Their primary armament consists of 2 2-ton side charges, filled with Amatex Explo sieve, attached externally to either side of the hull. These charges are designed to be released beneath the target and detonated by a time fuse. The journey to the target is itself an ordeal. The X-craft must be towed for an astonishing 1,200 miles across the treacherous North Sea from Loch Cairnban in Scotland. This 8-day voyage requires passage crews to manage the craft for most of the journey, enduring near constant submersion, only surfacing for 15 minutes every 6 hours to ventilate the hull. Close to the target, these exhausted passage crews are replaced by fresh, operational crews, who then undertake the final, most dangerous leg of the mission. Initial intelligence reports from Norwegian agents suggest a critical window of opportunity. Around September 22, the Tirpitz's 15-inch guns are expected to be stripped for cleaning, and her sound detection equipment might be down for routine servicing. This potential vulnerability, though fleeting, fuels the desperate hope that an attack might actually stand a chance of success. Yet, the institutional resistance to such an unconventional, audacious plan is palpable within the Admiralty. Many consider it an outlandish approach, but the sheer threat posed by the Tirpitz forces their hand. The stakes are impossibly high. The plan, codenamed Operation Source, begins its execution on September 11, 1943. 6 X-craft, X5, X6, X7, X8, X9, and X10 depart from Loch Cairnban, Scotland, each lashed to the stern of a conventional submarine for the arduous 1,200-mile tow across the North Sea. Lieutenant Basil Place commands X7, towed by HMS Stubborn. The journey immediately proves brutal. On September 16, disaster strikes. The towline to X9 parts in heavy seas. The midget submarine, already trimmed bow-heavy, dives out of control and plunges to the bottom of the North Sea, taking its 3-man transit crew, Sub-Lieutenant Edward Kieran, able seaman Harry Hart, and stoker George Hawlett, with it. 3 lives are lost before the mission even reaches Norwegian waters. 2 days later, on September 18, X-8 encounters severe problems. Water begins to leak into its side charges, making them unstable. The crew is forced to release the charges, which then detonate prematurely, damaging X-8 so severely that it must be scuttled. The operational crew survives, transferred to its towing submarine, HMS Sea Nymph. By the evening of September 20, only 4 X-craft remain operational, having made their landfalls seaward of Soroy Sound as scheduled. Reconnaissance reveals that the Scharnhorst and Lutzow are not in their expected berths. The mission is narrowed. All remaining 4 X-craft are to target the Tirpitz. The operational crews, including Lieutenant Basil Place and his team in X7, take over from their transit counterparts. Place's operational crew consists of Sub-Lieutenant Robert Aitken, Lieutenant Lionel Whittam, and engine room artificer William Whiteley. The X-craft slip their tows and begin their independent, perilous journey towards the heavily defended Kafjord. The approach involves navigating a declared minefield at the entrance to Sternsund and then penetrating the formidable anti-submarine nets guarding Kafjord. On September 22, the day of the attack, Lieutenant Basil Place guides X7 through the initial defenses. He maneuvers the tiny craft under the triple anti-torpedo nets, a complex and dangerous feat. The water is cold, the visibility poor, and every scrape against the netting sends shivers of dread through the confined hull. The X-craft are designed to be stealthy, but the sheer density of the defenses makes detection a constant threat. X6, commanded by Lieutenant Donald Cameron, is the first to encounter serious trouble. It becomes entangled in an outer anti-torpedo net. Despite the danger, Cameron and his crew manage to cut their way free, but the struggle consumes precious high-pressure air. As X6 continues its approach, its periscope is damaged, and the gyro compass fails, leaving the crew to navigate by guesswork. Lieutenant Basil Place, meanwhile, is carefully navigating X7 through the maze of nets. The intelligence reports about the nets reaching the bottom prove accurate, complicating his planned route. He pushes X7 deeper, seeking any advantage. Suddenly, X7's periscope is damaged, and the craft becomes entangled in another section of the nets. The submarine struggles violently, trying to break free. She breaks the surface several times, momentarily exposed to the array of German guns surrounding the fjord. Shells scream through the air, their impacts rocking the water around the tiny craft. Basil Place dives again, trying to escape the barrage. His high-pressure air is almost exhausted. What does it tell you about a man that he see? Continued to press on, deep within enemy territory, with his craft damaged and his chances of survival dwindling with every passing minute? Tell me in the comments. Aboard the Tirpitz, the morning of September 22 begins like many others in Kafjord. German lookouts maintain their vigilant watch, shore batteries are manned, and anti-submarine patrols conduct their routines. The massive battleship, a symbol of German naval power, is considered safe within its multi-layered defenses. Captain Hans Meyer, the Tirpitz's commanding officer, has no reason to anticipate an attack of this nature. The prevailing belief is that no enemy vessel could penetrate the fjord's natural and artificial barriers. Radio intercepts and hydrophone operators report nothing unusual. The calm is absolute. Around 7 o'clock, however, faint, unidentifiable disturbances are noted by some hydrophone operators, dismissed as marine life or minor mechanical issues within the fjord's own defenses. There is no alarm, no heightened alert. The German crew continues its routine, confident in their battleship's security. They are oblivious to the minuscule, yet deadly, threats now lurking just meters beneath the surface, navigating the very nets designed to protect them. The irony is profound. The lonely Queen of the North is about to be struck by an enemy too small to register as a significant threat, even as it closes in for the kill. Back in the icy depths, Lieutenant Basil Place is in a desperate situation. X7 is damaged, low on air, and entangled. He considers his options. Retreat is impossible. Surrender means the mission fails. He decides to make one final, audacious attempt. He manages to free X7 and, by some extraordinary lucky chance, as he later recounted, the midget submarine surfaces briefly within the nets. In a burst of pure determination, Place pushes X7 to full speed, ramming the battleship's portside. The tiny craft slides underneath the colossal hull. At approximately 7:07, Lieutenant Basil Place successfully releases X7's first 2-ton side charge, directly beneath the Tirpitz's hull, near the area of the forward main turrets. He then reverses the X-craft, driving it astern, and releases the second 2-ton charge approximately 45 to 55 meters, 148 to 180 feet, aft of the first, near the engine room. This places a total of 4 tons of high explosive directly under the battleship's keel. The charges are set with an hour's delay fuse, timed for a coordinated detonation at 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Donald Cameron, in X6, also reaches the Tirpitz. Despite the damaged periscope and faulty compass, he manages to navigate his X-craft to within a few meters of the battleship. He releases both of his 2-ton charges, totaling 4 tons of Amatex, against the Tirpitz's hull. With their mission accomplished, both X6 and X7 attempt to withdraw, but the damage and the dense nets make escape impossible. X6 is detected and comes under heavy fire, forcing Cameron to scuttle his craft and surrender with his crew. Lieutenant Basil Place faces a similar fate. After releasing his charges, X7 becomes entangled in the nets for a third time. With no compass and no clear idea of their position, the situation is critical. The air inside the midget submarine is foul, and the pressure on the crew is immense. Place realizes there is no escape. With only enough air remaining for one more surface, he makes the painful decision to scuttle X7 to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. He surfaces X7 near a battle practice target, approximately 500 yards from the Tirpitz's starboard bow. Place emerges from the conning tower, waving a white sweater as a sign of surrender. Tragically, as he does so, water laps into the low-buoyancy submarine, and X7 sinks, taking with it Lieutenant Lionel Whittam and engine room artificer William Whiteley, who are unable to escape. Sub-Lieutenant Robert Aitken manages to escape 3 hours later using his Davis submerged escape apparatus, eventually being picked up by the Germans. Basil Place is also captured. The 6 captured X-craft crew members, including Lieutenant Basil Place and Lieutenant Donald Cameron, are taken aboard the Tirpitz. They are subjected to intense interrogation by German officers, who initially suspect them of being Norwegian saboteurs. The Germans are desperate to understand how their impregnable fortress was breached. As the interrogations begin, the captured crew members are aware of the impending explosions. The tension on board the Tirpitz is palpable, though the German crew remains largely unaware of the true nature of the threat lurking beneath their hull. Would you have had the composure to face your interrogators, knowing that a catastrophic explosion was imminent beneath your face? An explosion you yourself had engineered? Tell me in the comments. At exactly 8:12, a tremendous explosion rips through the water beneath the Tirpitz. The battleship shudders violently, a massive jolt that throws men off their feet. Water immediately begins pouring into the hull, and the ship lists heavily. The sound of tearing metal and rushing water fills the air, quickly followed by the screams of the wounded. Chaos erupts across the decks. The first mine detonates abreast of Caesar turret, while the second explodes 45 to 55 meters, 148 to 180 feet, off the port bow. The explosions inflict severe damage. A fuel oil tank ruptures, shell plating is torn, and a large indentation is made in the bottom of the ship. Bulkheads in the double bottom buckle under the immense pressure. Over 1,400 tons of water flood into the ship, damaging all the turbogenerators in generator room number 2, and disabling all but one generator in room number 1 due to broken steam lines or severed power cables. Critically, the massive Dora turret is thrown from its roller bearings and cannot be rotated. The ship's 2 Arado AR-196 float planes are flung by the explosive concussion and completely destroyed. The damage is far more extensive than initially realized by the Germans. While the Tirpitz is not in danger of sinking immediately, her operational capability is severely compromised. 1 German crew member is killed, and 40 are wounded. The captured X-craft crews, still on board, witness the immediate aftermath of their success. Basil Place, who had moments earlier expressed frustration that the Tirpitz was still afloat, after his craft was shaken free of the nets, now sees the visible effects of his mission. The German command begins to assess the damage. Initial reports are confused, but the scale of the mechanical failure quickly becomes apparent. The Tirpitz is immobilized, her main engines inoperable, her propeller shafts bent, and her port rudder out of action. The battleship, which had been a constant threat to Allied shipping, is now a crippled hulk. The immediate repairs are rudimentary, focused on preventing further flooding and stabilizing the ship. The lack of heavy lift cranes in Norway capable of reseating the Dora turret means that critical repairs cannot be completed at Kafjord. The Germans are forced to transfer repair ships, equipment, and a large staff of dockyard workmen to Altafjord, consuming significant resources and personnel. The audacity of Operation Source sends shockwaves through the German high command. The lonely Queen of the North, once deemed untouchable, has been successfully attacked in her most secure anchorage. The psychological impact is immense. The Tirpitz remains in Kafjord for repairs, unable to leave until April 1944. She will never regain complete operational efficiency. The remaining X-craft, X5 and X10, do not contribute to the attack. The fate of X5, commanded by Lieutenant Henty Krier, remains unclear. It is believed to have been spotted and sunk by gunfire from the Tirpitz before it could lay its charges, with all 4 operational crew members lost. X-10, unofficially named Excalibur, is plagued by defects, including a periscope motor fire, and aborts its mission. It is scuttled in the North Sea on October 3, 1943, after its tow parts from HMS Scepter during gale conditions. Of the 6 X-craft that set out, none return home. 9 men are killed and 6 are captured during the entire operation. The success of the attack, despite the heavy losses of the X-craft, validates the unconventional approach. It demonstrates that even the most formidable naval power can be challenged by innovation and sheer courage. For the captured crews, including Lieutenant Basil Place, the war continues in German prison camps. They are transferred to Mar-a-Lago, the German prison camp for British naval officers at Westertimke near Bremen. There, they endure the hardships of captivity, but with the knowledge that their mission was a resounding success. If you were a German naval officer assigned to the Tirpitz, how would this attack have changed your perception of the ship's security and the capabilities of the British Royal Navy? Tell me in the comments. The confined space of the X-7 is a metallic coffin, barely large enough for its 4-man crew. Lieutenant Basil Place, his face grim, strains against the controls. The air is thick with the smell of sweat and diesel, the rhythmic hum of the electric motor a constant companion to their racing hearts. The periscope is damaged, offering only a blurred, partial view of the surface, if any. He knows they are deep within the enemy's lair, past the minefields, past the outer nets, now navigating a labyrinth of inner defenses. The very struck. Two array of the anti-torpedo nets, reaching the seabed, has thwarted his initial plan. A sudden, jarring scrape reverberates through the hull. They have struck a net. The X-craft bucks and shudders, the sound amplified 100-fold in the enclosed space. Basil Place fights the controls, trying to free the vessel. The pressure gauge for the high-pressure air drops precariously low as he expends it in desperate maneuvers. The X-7 breaks the surface, exposed for a terrifying moment. The distant crack of anti-aircraft fire echoes, followed by splashes dangerously close. He forces the craft back down, plunging into the murky depths, the sounds of danger momentarily muffled. With precious little air remaining, and the submarine still entangled, Basil Place makes a split-second decision. He pushes the X-7 forward, with all available power, aiming for the dark, colossal mass he knows is the Tirpitz. There is no finesse left, only raw determination. The X-craft scrapes violently along the side of the battleship, a deafening screech of metal on metal, then slides underneath the immense hull. The moment of truth arrives. At approximately 7:07, with icy precision despite the chaos, Basil Place turns the handwheel. The locking mechanisms disengage. With a clunk, the first 2-ton side charge detaches from X-7's port side, sinking slowly to the seabed directly beneath the Tirpitz's forward section. He then executes a daring maneuver, driving the X-craft astern, reversing its course under the battleship's keel. The claustrophobic passage beneath the Leviathan is a test of nerves. Again, he turns the handwheel. At an estimated 45 to 55 meters, 148 to 180 feet, further aft, the second 2-ton charge drops away, settling near the engine room. 4 tons of high explosive now lie waiting, timed to explode in just over an hour. The mission is accomplished, but escape is another matter. X-7 is still trapped, hopelessly entangled in the nets for a third time, low on power, and critically short of air. Basil Place knows his time is up. He must save his surviving crew. He surfaces X-7 one last time, approximately 500 yards off the Tirpitz's starboard bow, next to a battle practice target. He throws open the hatch, clambers out, and waves a white sweater, a stark signal of surrender in the cold Norwegian air. As he does so, water floods into the craft, and the X-7, exhausted, slips beneath the waves, taking Lieutenant Lionel Whittam and engine room artificer William Whiteley with her. Basil Place is pulled from the water by German sailors, his mission completed, his fate now in enemy hands. The clock ticks towards 8:12. The attack on the Tirpitz on September 22, 1943, orchestrated by Lieutenant Basil Place and his fellow ex-craft crews, stands as one of the most daring and strategically significant operations of World War II. Though the Tirpitz was not sunk outright, the damage inflicted was catastrophic enough to render her immobile for at least 6 months. The battleship took on over 1,400 tons of water, suffered ruptured fuel tanks, and experienced severe mechanical damage to her engines and propeller shafts. The most visible and critical damage was the unseating of her Dora turret, which could not be rotated, effectively neutering a significant portion of her offensive capability. This single, audacious midget submarine raid achieved what numerous conventional air raids and previous attempts had failed to do. The "Lonely Queen of the North" was crippled, her immense threat to Allied Arctic convoys neutralized for a crucial period. This allowed the Royal Navy to redeploy capital ships to other vital theaters, shifting the balance of naval power in the Atlantic. The repairs to the Tirpitz, which lasted until April 1944, diverted significant German resources, personnel, and equipment to the remote Kafjord, further straining the German war economy. Even after repairs, the Tirpitz never regained full operational efficiency. For their extraordinary courage and leadership in Operation Source, Lieutenant Basil Charles Godfrey Place and Lieutenant Donald Cameron were both awarded the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest military decoration for gallantry in the face of the enemy. Sub-Lieutenant Robert Aitken of X7 received the Distinguished Service Order. These awards recognized not just the success of the mission, but the courage, endurance and utter contempt for danger shown by the men who piloted these tiny craft into the heart of an enemy stronghold. Basil Place survived his captivity as a prisoner of war at Mar-a-Lago until 1945. After the war, he continued his distinguished career in the Royal Navy, rising to the rank of Rear Admiral. Remarkably, he later transferred to the Fleet Air Arm, trained as a pilot, and earned his "Wains." In 1952, flying operational missions during the Korean War. He commanded several ships, including the aircraft carrier HMS Albion, and served as Director of Naval Recruitment and Training. From 1971 until his death in 1994, he served as the chairman of the Victoria Cross and George Cross Association, a testament to his enduring commitment to valor and camaraderie. The midget submarines, though costly in human life during Operation Source with 9 killed and 6 captured, proved their revolutionary potential. The X-craft continued to serve, with improved versions like the XE class used in later operations, demonstrating the lasting impact of this audacious innovation in naval warfare. The attack on the Tirpitz ultimately set the stage for her final destruction by RAF bombers in November 1944. A destruction made possible by her crippled state and reduced mobility following the midget submarine raid. An unexpected fact. Long after the war, in 2004, a saddle charge identical to those used by the X-class was discovered on the bottom of Kafjord, a short distance from the site of the attack. Although not positively identified, it is believed to be from X-5, the midget submarine whose fate remained a mystery for decades. The enduring presence of this relic serves as a silent testament to the incredible bravery and sacrifice of the men of Operation Source. If this story moved you, if you think these men deserve to be remembered, leave one word in the comments: audacity. Subscribe for a new forgotten story every week.